Okay, hello everyone. We're here and I'm waiting for, here he is. Come on over, John. Okay, so John is here too. Welcome to this amazing panel. Still waiting for one panelist, but I'll send Jesper through when he comes. Looking forward to this. We have Upendo in Kenya, Angelica in Ireland. Bill is in the middle of the US, and John is also in the middle of the US, but a completely different part. And hopefully Jesper will come from Denver. Looking forward to you guys centering all around how we're going to help young people in this world where truth is no longer truth. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Angeline, for the tee off. I really appreciate it. And thank you, everybody who was on the guest panel. I know all of you in some way, shape, or form before we got put together. So it's really exciting to have you here. For the audience, welcome. I wanted to bring up the basic premise of the problem and see if people find that to be the actual premise, if there's some disagreements with that. And then going forward, I'd like to get hey Jesper, good to see you. Um, and then going forward after this, I'd like to bring it up to Upendo to kind of talk more about the lived experience that you have, and then I'll invite the rest of other people to participate. So right now, as you've seen, and we've had even yesterday, we had some people talk from Australia, which was really interesting because they've had the social media ban, come in. And there's a lot of disagreement on whether or not that was the effective way. But what still has a lot of tension is how do we keep people safe in a way that's controlled or, top down, but at the same time, um, not interfere with freedoms and make sure that people have access at the same time. Basically, in the early 2000s, there was a lot that was discussing we need people to have access to internet, and especially in like rural or remote areas or poverty-stricken areas. And as this developed, we had the sort of data economy flourish. And that has caused a number of issues globally, as we're a global panel here. So I wanted to see from different angles. All of you work and specialize in various areas. When we look at what's going on, I'll start with a digital native first. So, Upendo, from your perspective, and we'll use you as a guide, as a sort of reality check throughout what we're doing, and we really want to open that conversation to you. Um, Before even diving into solutions, um, you are the only digital native here on the panel. So I would love to know from your perspective how you've seen this evolve throughout your childhood.
Okay. I'd say that it's really underwhelming, but also overwhelming at the same time, because I am growing up with it. Since I was since I was very young, I've grown up with technology, the internet, everything. And in a way, like me and my generation, we rely on it to an extent, like for so many different things, like social, economical, political. Like a lot of people are interested in trying to use it to find work. People interact with it. It's one of the main sources of interaction between people. All political content at this point is mainly shared through the internet. Like that's how people get the news, not even watching actual news channels, but through their own, through getting people they subscribe to on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, anywhere. That's the main source of news. And I can say it can be like really overwhelming in a way that there are so many people who are actually trying to use it, who are trying to use the evolving technology to take advantage of children, of young people, trying to find ways that they can use it. In a way, they won't get caught, but they're still doing something wrong, especially when it comes to grooming, CSAM, and all of that.
Oh, John, you're on mute.
My bad. Thank you. Thank you for that opening statement. I really appreciate it. I want to turn in terms of story, punt it over to Jasper a bit. Just as a preliminary, he is the father of the Chromebook case in Denmark, who took a stand against his children automatically wanting to, in the school system, having to use a Chromebook, which doesn't have any real hardware, and it's basically software as a service uh, on every turn. So, I'd love to hear your perspective of, we had a digital native talk, and then your children are as well, and how you saw this economy form in Denmark. You're muted too. Same mistake as me. I still can't hear you, Jesper. It might be your permissions. Can anybody hear him? Okay. Um, Jesper, when you get that, while you get that figured out, I'll go to Angelica very quickly. Angelica, you have been studying misinformation and how it affects people and what it does to us psychologically. Sorry, dog. And what it does to us psychologically. So, can you explain from your perspective what you've seen in the landscape, political, child-wise as well?
Well, I see misinformation as a virus and as the biggest virus that affects the world. So, what I am doing in research, advocacy, and practical implementations is basically treating it as a real virus. There is this new field that emerged after COVID. It's called infodemiology, whereas we are having this epidemic of information um, issues, information warfare, cognitive issues that occur because of that. And that's basically, I would say that number one thing that I realized this is so serious. And this is one of the biggest threats to the world, even. At World Economic Forum, they say that misinformation and disinformation is one of the biggest threats to humanity, even. And that's both in long run and in short run. And that's been in 2025, 2026. So second year in the row, we see this. And I mean, it's one of the biggest challenges for the world because even climate change, right? We can't agree how to solve that when we have so much disinformation. And in terms of my own research, I can talk about that forever. But I am tackling the problem through three lenses. The first is interventions that are bringing communities to be aware of what's happening, of what bad actors are doing. And those interventions are borrowed actually from health studies, from medical fields. We can actually see changes in beliefs, um, in the ability of the person that has been under that intervention to discern fact from fiction. And one of the key problems that I see with those interventions is that we do not have them as actually the government programs, the educational programs all over the world, and we really, really need those. Second lens that is very important is research because still there it's a new field, as you know, and there is not that much research that can actually be that golden standard for scientists all over the world. So, for example, in research, as you know, John, like what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to establish systematic reviews of everything that is out there, all the best interventions to counter misinformation. And the problem is that what we see in scientific community is that there is no standardized measures. And because the field is so new, so novel, we actually have to have more investments in science, and we have to have more investments in AI threat research, because disinformation is like another big issue. AI threats and how it goes together with the deepfake. So when I started looking at this topic, it was the third, coming to the third and final lens is the lens of war zones. That's where my background is. My background is in war studies, and also I had experience working in conflict areas, and also I am myself Afghan and Ukrainian, and I've been quite in the center of all these conflicts for some time. So when Taliban took over Afghanistan, 2021, summer 2021, it was also the same issue. Information was the key thing that determined if people would be saved or not, if they would be evacuated or not. And same when Russia occupied certain territories in Ukraine and invaded, same thing. And same, it's been forever since the beginning of the times. Disinformation was used by different empires, but and the key issue here is now it's turned into the whole mass production amplified by AI technology that is very cheap to produce. So now we can have all these campaigns against communities, and especially in conflict zones, that's very, very dangerous, where people get affected by those actors. So I would say that for me personally, the impact of misinformation is something that can really be seen as one of the really gravest risks to the humanity in general.
Yeah, it's a great point. Your original statement where if people can't agree on like a common truth, like how do we get anything done, right? Like the flat Earth, phenomenon has been picking up, anti-vax. We're seeing measles outbreaks, rise in, polarized political regimes across the world, conflict leading to war and violence. So, I wanted to see, Upendo, how has this changed from your perspective recently growing up? I remember maybe like 10 years ago when I was in high school, I took like a digital literacy class, and it wasn't very effective. It was just like, oh, is this a true or false fact online? And I can only imagine how since around 2023, when ChatGPT exploded, how your newsfeed has changed, how you may deal with your peers and the type of content that shows up. So it'd be really cool to see how that's happened to you live.
Thank you, John. I would say that people have, okay, especially with mostly with the AI coming in, deepfakes, like a lot of people, it has gotten better. A lot of people finding it harder to discern between uh, fake news and actual information. And it's really harmful because mostly when someone finds something, they'll share it to a friend, whether it's going to be sharing it through a social media app or face to face, they'll share it. And that's how it's just going to, misinformation usually spreads. And it's getting worse with the internet because that's what people trust right now. And actually, I'm finding that it can also spread a lot of propaganda. It's people are just being influenced so easily by just what one content creator or one person just says. And whether it's true or not, people are less inclined to actually search it up once they've seen it once. And unless someone clarifies, let's say if it's in a YouTube video or something, unless someone clarifies, let's say in the comments, it's rare that someone's actually going to believe that that's fake. People can start like trusting that as the gospel truth and just running with it to a point where it affects their personal lives, especially if it's against a certain community or concerning a certain group of people.
Thank you. I'm wondering how that has changed in the age of AI recently. Have you noticed a change in the type of content you're seeing? and what your friends share?
I'd say that um it's changed as in like a lot of it is more realistic. A lot of it more like if it's going to be about let's say a video about a movie or something, and it has an AI voicing over the whole thing. Sometimes the creator can slip in a different word or just a different message in that AI voiceover,
Hmm.
and it can like affect and like change someone's perspective of that whole thing or the whole intended message. Or when it comes, they can actually, people are using AI a lot to just like, it's becoming more realistic facially as well. So someone can try to use videos where a different ending to a show or a different occurrence that to, let's say, something they watched on the news, and it will affect people like a large group of people or globally if it's taken as truth.
Okay. Yep. Thank you so much for that. That's really interesting to see how like messages can be inserted using a similar voice feature, and then like as you said, things are getting more realistic. Um, Bill, I have not forgotten about you. I want to see if Jasper's mic is working. I cannot hear you. I'm sorry. Maybe try restart, like rejoin the meeting, and we'll go from there. Bill, you have a very interesting history. You have been at the forefront of this for a long time, and you also understand data collection very well. So I would love to know for you, I'm sure your job is never boring at the moment. What are the things that you have been concerned about? It could be related to this conversation that's been happening, or if there's new things you'd like to invoke, that could really enliven the conversation as well. So take it away.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, John. I look in the mirror every morning and realize that I'm looking at Big Brother from the book 1984, that the techniques we are developing at Yahoo to help, sell advertising, manipulate.
Can you explain that a little bit, like how you got into that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, all my life I've been fascinated with how do I use the insights buried in data to make more relevant and meaningful decisions. It's been my
Hmm.
passion for my whole life. I can go back to my youth of sabermetrics and stratometric baseball, and it's always been the epiphany for me that if you had the ability to really understand the insights, not the data itself, but the insights buried in data, insights about your customers, about your operations, about society, that you could make more relevant decisions. And so that's a passion I've always had with me. And when I went to Yahoo, I was their vice president of advertiser analytics. Of course, we were using everything we knew about each and every one of our 200 million visitors to figure out what ad to show them, what to show at what time, et cetera, et cetera. And so, I mean, advertising has always been about manipulation. Let's be really honest, right? It's Procter and Gamble, where I worked some years of my life as well, is the master of propaganda, right? Tide makes your whites whiter, Crest makes your teeth, healthier. So, um,
About 15 years ago, they put in their annual report that they consider themselves a data company.
well, they
Same with
do.
Kroger. Hmm.
Yeah, and I think every data company collects data with one objective, and this is probably a harsh objective, but it's to manipulate, right? You're trying to use this data, and it's not the data itself, it's the insights. What made big data such a powerful factor wasn't the volume of data, it was the granularity. I knew, for example, at Yahoo, I knew every site you read, I knew every article you read, I knew every ad you clicked on, I knew what every social media post you were, I knew just keyword searches, I knew what you wrote in your emails. Oops, sorry, you should have read the fine print, right? I knew all this, had all this data, but it's useless if I don't understand what it is you're most interested in, what your natural propensities are, so I could serve you the right information. So we were trying to use it to help improve a customer experience. I worked at healthcare companies and hospitals and theme parks, and really with the objective of how do I use what I know about my customers at an individual level, a technique I call nanoeconomics that we coined about 20 years ago, so I can really drive much more relevant and meaningful decisions. And AI is great at doing that, but you have to train it. So I know one of the conversations that's been bouncing around is the Australia decided to ban social media. Finland went the other total direction. They've included critical thinking in their education program starting in kindergarten, right? And I'm a big believer that banning is the surefire way to make sure this backfires on us. Banning never works. There's always a ways around ban. And so instead of banning, we need to teach people how to use these tools in an ethical and responsible manner. So I now teach at Iowa State. I teach a class called AI-driven innovation. And the first thing we do in my class is each student builds their own digital assistant. We call it Yoda, your own digital assistant. And we train that digital assistant on some very primary things. We want to train this AI tool to be responsible. So we train it on the Socratic method. I don't want it to give me answers. I want it to challenge my cognitive thinking with more questions. I train it on the Bible, especially the books of Luke and Matthew, right? I treat others like you treat yourself, and the story, the parable of the Good Samaritan, about the difference between do no harm and do good. In AI, there's a big difference between do no harm and do good. We train it on critical thinking skills. We train it on the UN sustainability initiatives. We train this tool to behave in a manner, and we tell it that when you give me answers, I want you to embrace Socrates, I want you to embrace the Bible, I want you to embrace the thinking like a data science methodology, right? So we are teaching our students how to use this tool to help them accelerate their learning capabilities and to amplify their passions. And so that's my experience has taken me to the fact that I think when we look at this as a tool, like a hammer, but a little bit smarter than a hammer, and teach our students and our older people and our professionals how to structure this tool in a way that it helps me make more responsible and ethical decisions, then we're on the path to doing something I think is very important to help. It won't eliminate all these challenges we see. It won't replace critical thinking, but I can train this tool to help me evaluate situations so I can ask it things like, hey, is that picture real? And it will tell me, probably not. It looks like this. Trump's got 6 fingers. He doesn't have 6 fingers normally, so probably not a real photo. So again, that's my approach. I've always been teach, teach, teach with the guide rails of compassion and leveraging the books of the Bible. One of my students, by the way, uploaded the Quran, right? Perfect, right? It's got a religious message to it. Anyway, I could talk for hours about it, so I'll shut up and listen and take more notes.
It's cool. So I had 2 clarifying questions. What's the age range that you're teaching this
So,
at?
I teach high school seniors and juniors, and
Okay.
I also teach at the college level. They're anywhere from freshmen to graduates students.
Right.
So I haven't gotten down into middle school, but I certainly have seen at the high school level these students starting to realize that you can't use this tool raw. I mean, we know all the mathematical problems with a Gen AI tool. It's a statistical
Right.
averaging tool. It gives you answers. It's overweighted towards all the crap you find on social media. And when I'm making a decision about a nurse retention problem, I don't want to average it across comments about the Kardashians and Kim and Taylor Swift, right? I want to make sure it's focused on what I want. So that's what we do.
Okay, cool. And yeah, I'll hand it over to Jasper. I could hear you
Yeah,
when
you
you
can hear me.
joined. So, yeah, I think there's a very interesting the way you see the world and the way you've fiercely protected your children and the children throughout your country. And all of the hard work it took and all of the backstabbing that's happened along the way and punting legal things. I think your story is it can be repeated millions of times and nobody should get sick of it.
Yeah,
But
and it's going on for the 7th year now, and it's basically about that we have the school system in Denmark over the last decade. We have digitalized the school system, education system. We wanted the children to learn how to use technology, and we did that by basically buying products from 2 companies, Microsoft and Google. So especially the primary schools are only using mainly these 2 tools and platforms. And what I discovered 7 years ago is that my children are using Google Chromebooks, and that their personal and user data was used in a way that we didn't give consent to. And it started a big case. And it turned out that a lot of the municipalities that are using these tools didn't do any risk assessment, so on. And basically, they had no idea what was going on. And it was Google who did started this case. For me, was the fact that in my municipality, there were created 8,000 school profiles on YouTube with their full name, their school name, and their age. And from there on, it took on. And now we are at a final stage of the case with the Danish DPA, doing a webinar tomorrow, actually, explaining where we are now. And the main issue is still the transfer of data, in that sense that is sent to Google, but on the way to Google, there's a lot of partners. Who are these partners, and who is responsible for securing that the data is not used in a wrong way? And it is the municipality that is responsible to check all the whole way through the data flow. But of course, not many municipalities have the resources to do so. So should it be Google or should it be the municipality? That has turned me deeper into AI, because since 2022, we had AI flourishing out in a whole education sector without any guidelines, without any without teachers being educated in using and teaching in AI. And that has caused big problems in cheating and children using AI in the wrong way. And I banned actually AI use here in my municipality, because I said, well, you cannot allow children from the age of 9 to use AI without any restrictions, any guidelines, and without the teacher even knowing what's going on. So,
Jasper, quick question about that. When you say you banned it, did you ban it in schools or
yes,
okay? Just wanted to clarify.
yeah, well,
As to Bill's point, right? To
yeah,
make sure,
banned it in
because
schools
yeah,
because I said that you cannot, this is a powerful tool. I expect, if I send my children to school, that they get educated in the tools that they are provided with. And this hasn't happened for the last decade. Now we have big issues with children not very good in reading or writing or calculating. It's very common for children who are weak in the school tend to use AI more to solve thesis and so on. And instead of what I hoped it would be when my children came with their Chromebook, is now they learn everything about technology that I didn't learn in school. But that did not happen. They have become consumers rather than being educated. Yeah.
that's a that's a really good point. There has been a lot of research now about how ed tech came into America. I'm not sure how it went with other countries, but it started here, really, like Silicon Valley expanded globally in this way. And the ed tech was supposed to, measure kids' progress, individualize, education. And what it turned out was the comprehension and the learning actually slowed down.
Yeah.
Because you get more from haptic feedback of actually like physically writing and reading a real book. And teachers kind of took a back seat to video related content and such. And this did not engage students very well. And as you're saying with AI, it's only, getting worse. And students that are behind, right, to keep up, if they can't write, like if third grader can't write, a paragraph, I had to do little paragraph assignments around third grade. But if I can't write a proper paragraph with good grammar and spelling, I'm going to rely on AI. And by the time I get to fifth grade, I'm going to only know how to do that with AI when I have to write my 5 paragraph essays, the intro, three paragraphs, and the outro. So, yeah, and then that student is playing catch up the whole time and they're technically passing, but they're not learning to critically think.
No,
And
and that's one of
Yeah.
my key issues also, that they don't learn critical thinking if they are using monopoly products like Microsoft and Google. They don't learn about other softwares, other ways of using technology, because it's all wrapped in one product. So the learning experience for using technology is simply not good enough. And I think it's as a parent, it's a frustrating thing to be witnessing.
thank you. Angelica, I saw you wanting to say something.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Jasper on that. And I just wanted to say that it's so odd that it takes 1 year to get the textbook approved to get to schools, yet the tech providers are not audited. This is one of the absolutely crazy things that happen because you roll out technology. This is the technology that hasn't been audited, and the second question is, if even if rolled out to schools, the key element that most tech providers are playing on is how to keep children hooked on that technology. So, how do we protect children when schools do not protect children? That's one of the really big questions here because, same in Europe, same in the US. In terms of EU AI Act, I don't know if we have much time for that, but just in a few words, EU AI Act doesn't really protect women and children from, let's say, sexualized deepfakes, deepfakes porn, all of these things. And we have the legislation in place that doesn't even cover one of the key problems that women and children face when they are using the technology. We can't be silent about what happened to children with recent cases with Grok and others, and even with everything that's happening geopolitically, technology providers are not helping the children. They are not, because the whole thing is, I mean, not everybody, but the majority of big tech is doing everything possible to keep people hooked on the platform. And another big question is, do we own our data? We can't see it, we can't touch it. Do we actually own it? How the children can even feel their ownership of their data? One of the things that we launched based on those interventions on misinformation and analogy with vaccination and infodemic management is the initiative of critical thinking classes simulations at schools across Ireland. We were the first startup to launch that across Ireland, and that showed something really horrific because children across the schools that we worked with, they actually spend more time online on platforms rather than talking to their peers and developing socially. So another big problem is that the platform will do absolutely everything to keep the child hooked. And I talked to one girl, 9 year old, and she told me I spent 12 hours on Roblox the other day. And she was so happy about it because she said, wow, I did the best thing ever. And I was like, first of all, how are you allowed to do that? Secondly, why parents are not aware? And thirdly, the platform itself, it's designed to keep children addicted. So I absolutely agree that we banning is not the only option. We have to teach children, but at the same time, the system is designed to keep them addicted. So, what can we as the collective do to change the system that actually doesn't benefit children at all?
Thank you. That was really important. Yeah, Upendo, I want to have you talk about this because I know you're very passionate about this, and you've talked at length about it. But from your perspective, first of all, just react or whatever you wanted to say. But I'd also like for you to share a little bit about how you found out about the data economy, like what got you to that path. And then, so we have about 30 minutes, and I think the probably the best thing to do is all of you people are very outspoken and and everybody has something interesting to say. And I think talking amongst yourselves will be a natural conversation at this point. There's so many points for us to jump off. So I would just facilitate that a bit. But feel free to bring up any topics you'd like and reach out to anybody you'd like to talk to. So without any further ado, I'll give you the floor. Brenda.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
wanted to agree with what Angelica said. Um, these platforms are very addictive. People, especially children, they are very enticed to continue playing, continue just going into games. And I feel like, yes, adults, parents, they should be able to educate them on what they're supposed to be doing. um like their devices shouldn't prevent them from actually doing something productive or something positive with their day, and people should be encouraged to do at least several things that are productive and help them grow throughout their day, even if they're going to play or use these apps. Let let there be something that it adds to their lives. um I would say that big tech companies, it's I feel like it would be very difficult for them to reduce the addictive factor, because what they're after is the money profit. So I see that people need to really look into how they can manage themselves better, and how they can limit themselves. Like it should be something that is taught. They limit themselves. They know how to pace themselves and draw boundaries with these apps. And John, could you repeat that question?
Yeah, I wanted to know how you found out about the data economy.
Actually, I've been in training. I've been part of another organization, Totoni's, where I've been trained concerning these things over the years, especially in recent years.
Can you share
And
with me how you got into that training and how it appealed to you? Yeah, and how you got involved. Because this is really important to see how somebody who didn't know about this actually took extra effort to find out and learn more and be an advocate. So this pathway is very important and very interesting for everyone in the world to kind of see how um, we go from not knowing to finding out to and a lot of people when they find out they just don't care anymore, they're too scared to do anything, to actually deciding to learn more and speak up. So I'd love to hear that story.
actually, I started training in advocacy in 2019. Um,
How old were you then? Just curious.
wait, I think 10. I
You were
think I
10
was
years old.
10.
Okay. So you had training at 10 years old. That's awesome. Okay.
So at first so that trained me. I'm a child journalist and a child advocate. So over the years, that's what I've been focusing on. Got into climate advocacy, and then in recent years, around 2023 or 2024, I did a research concerning with Mtoto and Safe Online, concerning digital literacy for children, where we went to different counties within Kenya. There were other researchers in different countries, but I was one of the children researchers in Kenya. Uh, we did it.
How
It
did
was
you,
so.
sorry, I'm so fascinated. How did you find this or get attracted to doing something like this? Like, how was that opportunity presented to you? How did you find out about it? And was it easy to enroll and be a part of it?
It was my mom who found the link to the training, and so she registered me. I went through the whole thing, and it was actually very easy. You just register. They just register the child, pay for for a week training, and we go through. Now the thing is, at that point, it's just like for the parent and child to be dedicated. So that's how
Yes.
it's been. So up to the training right now, it went for 3 separate weeks. We each week we went to a different region. First, it was semi-urban, because urban we had already done here in Nairobi. So
Mhm.
it was semi-urban. Then we went to rural and then conflicted. So each one of those we first did a pre-test where we tested the children's basic knowledge on digital literacy, the internet, how they if they know what grooming is, how to keep themselves safe. And then we trained them for that week. And then afterwards we did a post. And then, so I actually got to present that research in France for the African village, AI village, that was held last year. And we released the children's version of the research paper. So at that point, I had already started. It started depending on like personal initiative. Yes, I've been trained, but am I actually going to continue learning and exploring this? So with the help of my mother, I started learning more about the digital platforms, AI. I got more into coding and these different platforms.
And the last question before I open it up, I wanted to learn about how this affected you emotionally, right? Like you did research, you got really involved, you had a good parent, but what was it like to learn that everything, like you were born into the internet and using everything every day? How did that feel to learn behind these tools and how they are designed to keep you addicted? What was that? What did you go through? And how did you feel as you went through that?
I feel okay. I was somewhat apathetic
Okay.
because uh I was like a usually naturally curious person most of the time. So just getting to understand it more kind of helped me limit myself on things that are addictive or try to like even if I'm using my phone, it's something that whether I have it or whether I don't, it's helping me one way or another. And being able to uh, knowing that all my data is being used, that these things I'm being what I am being incentivized to being addicted. It in a way it actually is like it clears the mind because once you know that, you know what to avoid.
Okay. Thank you so much. We have about 20 minutes left, so I'll open the floor. I'm sure people have a lot of things to say. I saw the reactions of the panelists throughout this, and go ahead, Jesper.
Yeah, I think it's right now here in Denmark we have election, and you would think that a country that is proud of being very digitalized and uses technology in all kinds of sectors, that the political debate would also include the digital economy, but the fact that it doesn't. So I think that the responsibility of creating legislation, educating the public, creating awareness is very much up to the politicians. But as the debate here right now is not on digital issues like addiction or other, or digital serenity, which is a hot subject as well. It's difficult to get the public into this discussion and how we want to move on, and in a society where AI and technology is closing in on every aspect of our lives, and I think it's some of you guys may also think about how the debate in the public and also by the politicians is being done in to create better interaction with technology, because I think in Denmark it's a lack of debating technology. that makes it easier for the government to make legislation, or like we have a legislation that is being discussed after the election about how all people in Denmark's personal data, health data, public data can be used freely for the government to train AI, to implement AI in the public sector. Yeah.
I'm going to be the unpopular one here, and I think we're all being very naive. I'm sorry. We had all these free services. Did you really think I was going to give you a free mail at Yahoo without asking anything in return? And so there is a bit of naivety, and I'm guilty of this as well as anybody else, that all these companies offered us these really great things, social media, email, AI, free chat GPT sort of stuff, and they want something for that. It's just the way the beast is fed. And so I think the answer, at least in my opinion, is that we the parents, we the humans, we the people need to be accountable. We can't ask for the governments to bail us out. Government is supposed to be a reflection of us. I don't trust my government here in the US as far as I could throw a 100-pound rock, right? It's up to us as humans to make certain that we are representing not only what we think is right, but also representing those who we have responsibility for looking out for. So I tell my children, and I'll shut up, is that the minute you blame someone else for your situation, you've given up control of your own destiny. But the minute you take on and say that is on me, then that means I am in control of my destiny. So I'm not going to blame the tech companies. They're only doing what they're going to do. I'm not going to blame others. It's on me as a parent. It's on me as a mentor to make certain that my children and the people I'm working with know as much about what's going on, and that I'm being very active and proactive and vocal in making sure that my voice is heard, and making sure that their voice is heard, to make sure they have a voice to stand up as well, that everybody needs to have a voice in this matter. It can't be decided. The AI usage can't be decided by a handful of white billionaires sitting in Silicon Valley dictating to us how AI is going to treat us. I'm sorry, but that's bullshit, and that's on us if we let it happen.
Yes, I totally agree. But at least what I experience is that it's when among the parents, it's all about convenience. So there is
Yep.
no interaction between their kids and the parents. The parents don't interact in this debate or this discourse. I was the only one, for example, in Denmark, the only parent who complained about AI in my school. Nobody else did. And when I talk to other parents and they say, well, AI is everywhere, it's on all their phones, on all technology, and they have to learn it anyway. So I said, yeah, maybe I should I give them the car key to my 12-year-old. The car is a well-known technology. It's everywhere. The children know about it, and they had to learn it anyway.
Can I jump in very quickly here?
Absolutely.
I think we have two very different worlds at the moment, because here in Europe, we still trust our governments. And here in Europe, we still demand some rights from our governments and transparency, accountability, and we demand protection of civilians, first of all. Um, I agree that it's very much the need of parents to wake up to this, and it's very sad to see that most parents really have no idea, and they at times they choose not to get involved, because but we can't blame them so much as well, because parents are doing in the majority of cases, parents are working extremely hard to pay the bills and just to survive. And in current economy, we have the situation where parents really struggle across the world, not only in the US, even in Europe, with all the geopolitical tensions. There's so much. There's so much going on. But I still believe that governments have to take a very active, responsive role because tech companies are outplaying the governments at the moment. When we're looking at war zones, for example, and I'm talking from my own experience here, in war zones, your data can cost you lives. And that's where those big tech giants that decide to either sell that technology that is not perfect to do the autonomous drones, for example. Let's talk about that for a second. And that's where that targets schools and civilian infrastructure. That's where the responsibility is for the governments to actually be transparent with the public because that's where the mistakes of the war are happening and where Anthropic didn't do that. That was not just the heroic movement, it was just the right thing to do. It was the right thing to do. And now we have the situation when the right thing to do becomes something heroic and something that we applaud, but that's just the right thing to do. And the problem here is we still live in government's role, like we still operate in society, we don't live in anarchy. And at some point those governments, they are lacking the ideas. We don't have coherent national AI literacy strategies. Like we were talking in front of Irish Parliament a couple months ago, and that's what happened. We were trying to wake up that call to have that transparent AI national strategies, and especially education wise. And people are waking up. The politicians are also waking up to this. One thing is a community, and it's extremely important. But the other thing is how we can push towards the levels of national schools, the programs, and why those tech guys have the access to schools and they are not being audited. So the whole technology itself, it's very important to be the responsible ones, but at the same time, we have to have systems in place that can protect us. And at the same time, I really admire people who are taking that stand to be that strong leaders to educate the society that we have to trust only ourselves. But that's what the governments are for as well. We elect those politicians to represent our rights. So they have to do their job, and one of those jobs is to protect children. So how do we put more pressure on them while we are working in our own communities as well?
Yeah, and I'd like to also add that great points, everyone. I would also like to add that you've probably seen some like featured articles in the past couple years where it's kind of called the death of the nation state, where it talks about how big tech has ballooned so much power. The US has not broken up monopolies like in the past 25 years very well. And so there tends to be more capital in a lot of these tech companies than governments. And that's kind of like where you can see the Greenland thing is sort of a technocratic play that Peter Thiel has been talking about in some sort of ways, and how it's been manipulating the government through cash, kind of as Bill is saying. So there's a lot of geopolitical things at play, especially with as these companies become monopolies and have data, and governments buy data from these companies as well. So the power of these organizations are more powerful than a lot of nation states.
Yeah, absolutely, John. And this is a very big problem that we have this imbalance of power.
Yeah, and Bill, you mentioned 1984, and I kind of think of it as more of like Huxley's dystopian hell, kind of as Jasper has talked about, which is Brave New World, the book Brave New World,
Yes.
where
Right.
the convenience and the comatoseness of letting the ease and the appeal of tech sort of let us rot in a comfortable state while we let things happen to us in a way. I was wondering from the perspective of yes, we people need to stand up, but Jasper, you are someone who stood up, and I would love to know, like, from your perspective, what that cost you, because you were like one of the only people that stood up. What did that cost you? I know 7 years, right?
Yes.
But what was that like? What type of manipulation did you go through? What kind of hurdles did you go through? And how what could have helped other people step up with you? So like if people are out here, they want to make that change, how do they stand up to that? How do they endure that? You know, what and can you do it if you're like that was your full-time job essentially, right?
Yeah, at some point it is, it
Yeah.
was, and still is.
Mhm.
But it was only possible because our how we arranged my family life. Uh, I'm in Denmark. It's still not typical that the male is going home taking care of the children and the wife is making the money, but that was the
Yeah.
case. That gave me the time to dig into these subjects. I didn't know anything. I was as most people were and still are just using technology without thinking about it. And like Upendo said, it was when you use time and you realize that, oh, they're just taking all my data and they're manipulating it, and what should I do? And but it's time consuming, and I think the reason why nobody else as a parent has done it here in Denmark in the same degree and with the same push that I actually managed to create here is time. People don't have time. It takes time to get into these subjects, and when it comes to data, it can very much become very abstract. Like Angelica said, data is something we don't know. We don't see it. It's just there. So and the cost is I wouldn't say it cost me a lot except time. It gave me more. It gave me knowledge. It opened up my mind, and I studied. And what the best that has come out of it is the conversations I had with my children that actually made them learn how to be critical and use technology differently than their mates in the schools, and also to teach them that it's okay not to have a smartphone. You are not being antisocial. You are still part of the big social environment that you're in, even though you are not on TikTok or not on Snapchat or not on Facebook or on so on. So it's, I wouldn't say it cost me, yes, time, but it gave me a lot of understanding. And it also gave me a lot of contacts to people who know much more. And the experience I had, at least very much in Denmark, is that I gained very quickly access to people who really know about these subjects, like scientists, researchers, teachers, business people that share the same critical thinking on technology. And it gave me also a platform where I could speak more as a citizen about these issues. And I think what I realized in my study is that a lot of scientists and researchers and scholars has been debating the issue of data and the data capitalism for years, but it did not cross over to mainstream. And I think the best thing I have accomplished is to get some of these difficult issues into mainstream debates and conversations. So now it's not something weird anymore. It's something that the public is getting into more. So
Yes.
it didn't
And
hold.
thank you so much for all the work that you've done. I've seen the changes firsthand, but it took 7 years, and there were a lot of political things that happen and how, shell companies do things. But we could that's for another day. We have about 2 minutes left,
Yeah.
and Upendo, I just want to leave it with you to have the final say here. Everybody, you are phenomenal. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John. I would like to say that when it comes into like the children aspect, especially social. I want to like kind of backtrack to talking about the parents, where I feel like looking at it slightly socially, um, when it comes to parents who aren't involved in their children's lives, and I don't mean like they don't put them in, like when they don't put them in social events, when they don't take them to practice or stuff like that. I mean more of having that emotional connection with the children, and especially starting at a young age. Because after a certain age, let's say like once they start getting into teenagehood, especially like around preteen, they have started to like get into themselves as a person and rely more on their friends rather than their parents. And now they have. So from then on, if they didn't have that emotional connection, not necessarily that they don't have a good relationship with their parents, they could have a good relationship with their parents, but if they don't have that emotional trust in them, then most of the times they will seek that out through the internet, social media, especially right now when it comes to AI chatbots. People tend to look for any sort of comfort or understanding from there, especially with people who, let's say, they want some sort of therapy for things that it doesn't need to be a big thing, like something like trauma, but it can be like just day-to-day issues, because there are people who like someone will say write in a journal, do this, but not everyone is like comfortable, because I know some people who like they don't write because they'd rather not keep a record. They don't want that to be out there in the world. And I feel like if a parent doesn't make an emotional connection from when their child is young and vulnerable, they will not be able to properly integrate with their child or talk to their child or educate their child on all these issues. And the children will look for comfort elsewhere, anywhere else. And they will start, that is how they will start believing everyone else but their parents. Like
That is
any
a
issue that like politics, AI, all those, they will believe everything else, but from like adults or and sometimes even their peers.
That is a really good point to leave on. There's a critical part where we have to reach our kids, and that can be a lot of people don't have parents, as the comment said, that can do this, and that's where a school system comes into play. We are over time. Thank you, everybody. There is another talk right at 1, so I have to end this very quickly so we can get to the next one. You are fantastic. Thank you very much for this conversation. Yep. Bye.
Thank you. So are you, John. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye bye.